And so we're going to start with some brief introductions. So we're going to do a little bit of new and good. I've got some announcements and some super exciting upcoming events that most of you already know about. We've got a couple of our presenters, our vendors and exhibitors. Then we're going to go through understanding the CS standards. And like I said, at the end, we'll have an opportunity for you all to give some feedback. You can see this presentation. I think I opened it up. Please let me know if I didn't open it up. But you can see this whole slide deck, all the links, everything else at bit.ly CSTA Ohio 1016. That's today's date. And you can also scan that QR code if you would like to get it on a different device. And that bit.ly is not going to go away. So popcorn style, if your voice is prepared, if your voice is not prepared, if you can please throw in the chat, just give us a quick introduction. So if you can give your name, your location, or your district, and something new and or good in computer science and teaching, or generally in your life. So go ahead, whoever would like to start. Or I can start calling on people. Go ahead, Michael.
Yes, my name is Michael Terrell. I'm not with a district, but we do work with districts all across the country and Ohio. Work with NextWaveSTEM. And something great that's going on in my life is that we recently just added dual language resources to our materials. So that's inclusive and definitely something I'm excited about.
Thank you so much. Mike, I saw your hand go up.
Hey, I'm Mike McHugh. I teach at Cincinnati Country Day. It's a private school. And one of the cool things that I did recently was I saw a lot of these good folks at the Women in IT conference at Xavier University last week. And so I had a lot of fun there. It's great catching up with folks. And actually, Sean Jackson was there, and we had been at an AP reading table together a couple years ago. And so he had different hair back then, so I didn't recognize him right away. But anyway, it was nice to catch up with folks.
That's great. Thank you. Carla, I already picked on you, and let me pick on you again.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carla. I am CSTA Ohio's recording secretary. I am a seventh grade science and computer science teacher for Warrensville Middle School, Warrensville Heights, Ohio. Something new, as John was picking on me about when I was leaving, I am a Fulbright scholar. I'll be working in IT in India, in Chennai, India. So this is my last school year, and then I leave August 2025, and I return the new year. So that's what I'm preparing for right now.
That's all so exciting.
It is.
Thank you, Carla. Amanda.
All right. Hi, I'm Amanda O'Mara. I am down near Cincinnati. I teach in West Claremont School District. I teach middle school CS. Something new I just started was Project STEM's MIT Raise AI curriculum. I actually have my seventh graders are all doing AI, so we've been working through that, and it's been pretty good so far. Not happy with how their website's laid out, but the content's good. And then this guy.
Hi, I'm Keegan O'Mara. I'm a middle school teacher at the Seven Hills School here in Cincinnati as well. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and I teach engineering and computer science and art and technology. And I just put an application into the National CSTA conference to present. So there you go. So hopefully it gets accepted.
Wonderful. That's great news. And I'll be reminding everyone about the due date for that in just a minute. Tom, I know you just got on, but your video is on. Please, if you could, introduce yourself and let us know something new and or good in CS teaching or generally in your life.
Okay, well, so I'm Tom Lowers. I'm the founder of BirdBrain Technologies, which is in Pittsburgh, and we make the Finch robot and the Hummingbird robotics kit. And yeah, I think something good in my life. I've been transitioning to a new role where I'm doing a lot more product development, which will let me do more, just will let me kind of accelerate what we're doing at BirdBrain. So I'm excited about that.
Excellent. Thank you. Folks who do not have your video on, I'm not going to pick on you to participate by audio if you don't want to, but please chime in right now and introduce yourself if you are comfortable doing so. If not, we'd love for you to throw your introduction in the chat, just like Stephanie has, and she said in the chat that she's got a bad case of bronchitis. But she is at UC Claremont, and she is allowed to work from home while she is sick. So if anyone who is not on video would like to participate, Anne, go ahead.
I'm Ann Fuller. I teach for Dublin Durham High School and Dublin City Schools. I'm their AP Computer Science aide teacher, principals teacher, and I run our Dublin Tech Club, which does pre-K through middle school computer science educational outreach. And hopefully by tomorrow, I will be out of the hospital with my concussion, post-concussion symptoms, which will be great. So I'm going to probably be listening to you more than looking at a lot of screens. I overdid it by grading and ended up over here. Also, I had the 15 recommendation letters I wrote over the weekend, so that probably didn't help matters. And I'm also now a new adjunct professor of computer science education with Becky at Cleveland State University.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to hop in? If not, that is totally okay. If you could introduce yourself on the chat, that'd be wonderful. Crystal, I know you just got here. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Okay. Oh, sure. You probably heard my dog barking. Yep. So Crystal LaFontaine. So besides being a CMSD substitute, I also mentor with robotics. I was doing K-8 computer technology for a while, and then my background is I was an IT systems engineer, and then hey, my future is supposed to be adjunct professor, and I'm going to let my dog out now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And hi to Patty, who says that she is from Campfield and a STEM teacher for K4. And it is very loud in her house, and so we appreciate that. Welcome to Dr. McKenzie from Columbus City Schools. So some climate kits going on from Forward Education. That's awesome. What a great opportunity for them. Matthew Hensley at Cincinnati Christian, and Code Academy Pro. You get Code Academy Pro because your school uses Clever. I need that too. I don't know if anyone else is writing that down, but I'm going to see if I can take advantage of that. I do not know how to pronounce your name, and I do not want to say your name incorrectly, but teaches APCSA in Montebello, California. Thank you so much for being here. And let's go ahead and get started with our announcements. So you can always follow CSTA, as most of you already do, on Slack, LinkedIn, or on X and Twitter, and the links are there. If you go to bit.ly CSTA Ohio 1016, that link at the bottom, you can get this whole slide deck and all the links that are associated with it. We also have, we've been selling some swag on Spreadshop. So please get your CSTA Ohio swag. We're going to roll out some new logos very soon, especially having to do with the CSTA Cleveland coming up, and also some other events that are coming up soon. We keep an eye peeled for our elections. Voting will happen very soon, and we will be welcoming some new board members, we hope. In addition to our current board members, no one's going away. There's also a link for some online PD from CSTA in case you are in need of whatever sort of professional development as it has to do with computer science education. In addition to just computer science education, there is CUs that go along with a lot of that online PD. NC WIT has the Aspirations in Computing High School Award going on. And I know Eva, if she were here, would just urge everyone to make sure that you get your female and non-binary students applying for Aspirations in Computing. CSTA is looking for memories for the 20th anniversary. So any pictures, anything else that you have from the last 20 years of CSTA, even if it's just a couple of years ago, is greatly appreciated as they put that together. And we've also been pestering you about the CS Teacher Landscape Survey, trying to get 100% participation as much as possible so that we have really good data to use for advocacy purposes. Quite a few of us do advocacy work, and that can involve talking to a lot of legislators who want to see data about what's going on in computer science in Ohio and across the world, in fact. You can get CEUs for this meeting. We do have a form that you can fill out for that. So take a look at that in case you would like some CEUs. OETC, we have the CS Summit coming up on February 12th. And quite a few of you submitted sessions for OETC. And if you are looking for a scholarship for OETC, we will be able to offer, we do actually have, we have that in place, those scholarships. So we will be able to offer some scholarships, and we'll let you know what the timeline is for that. And the big, huge deal that we're going to be talking about for months and months is CSTA 2025 in Cleveland. If you are looking for a scholarship, we are collecting names. CSTA headquarters is putting together how those scholarships will be distributed. That is not something that we're going to do at CSTA Ohio, but we welcome you to let us know that's something that that you are interested in. And if you would like to present at CSTA Cleveland, you need to get your session proposal in, just like Keegan did, by October 27th. October 27th. So that's just a week and a half from now. And it's a fairly painless process. A bunch of people on here have presented, and I think everyone can agree that it's a great opportunity and a great experience. So welcome Janelle. So I will now turn it over, and you can also share your screen, Tom, to Tom Lowers, and he is from BirdBrain, and he'll be discussing some great AI materials.
All right, thank you, John. All right, I will share my slides here. Okay. So I'm going to give a brief intro to BirdBrain Technologies and our products, hopefully like a minute or two. And then I want to talk about our AI resources so that you, which you can use both with our products and also without any robotics. So just so for those of you who haven't heard of BirdBrain Technologies, I founded it 14 years ago. It was a spin-off of some research that I was doing at Carnegie Mellon University. And our mission is to inspire deep and joyful hands-on learning in all students through our products, which are the Finch robot and the Hummingbird robotics kit. So the Hummingbird's all about bringing STEAM into any subject. So it's used in social studies, in science, in math, in English class, and in computer science. often at the upper elementary and middle school level, a little bit at the high school level as well. And so you can use it with a number of different block-based and text-based programming languages, including Python and Java. The Finch is all about bringing computer science to life. And the version of the Finch that we've had out since 2020 can do that starting in kindergarten with icon-based programming, going all the way up through introductory CS classes at the freshman college level. So you can program these in Java, in Python, but also in things like Snap, Bird blocks, Make Code, and Finch blocks for the really young kids. So we've had these two products or these product lines for a long time, but in the last couple of years, with the interest in AI, we developed some lessons to use them with a tool that was developed by Google called Google Teachable Machine. Now, what Google Teachable Machine does is it allows you to train a machine learning model to do various things. So there's one where you can train it to distinguish different objects that you hold in front of your webcam. There's another which can be trained to distinguish different sounds that you make, so speech or other sounds. And there's a third one that is all about poses, so like making different poses, sort of like if you remember the Xbox Kinect, something like that. And so we hooked this, we basically used that tool and we hooked it into our solutions for Snap, which is block-based programming, and for Python. And so we have all of these lessons available for you to take a look at to kind of lead you or your students through creating their own machine learning models. So really doing that whole process of collecting training data, basically hitting a button that says train, and then seeing what kinds of predictions those models are making. So that's the Google Teachable Machine part. And then they can import their models into either Snap or Python, and then use that to either control a robot or to control a Snap program that, Snap is a blocks-based language. So think of it as similar to Scratch. So they could control a program that, they could make a game where it shows different images as they hold up different objects, for example. So here are links to our various lessons with our robots. But the thing that I wanted to go in a little bit deeper was our Hour of Code AI for All lesson, which does not require a robot at all. So all of you can use this right away. And so let's see if this, can you still see, can you see the lesson in the new browser window? Okay, great. So this is a teacher guided lesson. So this is basically everything that you need to run this lesson in about an hour with middle or high school students. So if you're doing CS principles, it might be a great way to do some AI. If you're doing an 8th grade computer technology class, it might be a good place to put this lesson into that. And so you get, all of these resources are free. You get a teacher guide, which kind of walks you through what does this look like, 45 to 60 minutes. That you can use directly with your students. And then there's links to Teachable Machine. We also have a printable that you can print out if you don't want to have the students find their own objects and you want to have a more, I guess, standardized experience where you're giving them all the same images to train on. And then we have a Snap project that is basically a starter. So this is a video that shows this project or this lesson working with our printable, controlling a robot in this case. But again, you don't actually have to do the robot part. So here, like if you look at this, if you look in the canvas, it's showing a cardinal, and then the Finch is reacting in different ways to that. Yeah, so that's the very quick version. Sorry, stop there. I'll go back to my slide deck. And then the only other thing I wanted to say is if you do want to try this with a robot, you can demo a hummingbird or a finch from us for free for 30 days. So you can borrow one, try it out, try it with our AI lessons, and have some fun with that. My email is at the bottom here. You can always send me an email. I'm also going to put the link to these slides into the chat because I know I talk kind of fast. But there's the link to the slides. It has all the information you need. All the links to those lessons are in the slide. I'll also directly put the Hour of Code lesson link here. But yeah, they're there, they're free. Please use them. We specifically made that Hour of Code lesson for the Hour of Code last year, and it's been pretty popular. So I just wanted to let you all know about it. And if you have any questions, I can probably stay for another 5 minutes, then I've got to run out to dinner.
Please. We have a couple minutes. If there are any questions, you can either unmute or put it in the chat.
And you can ask about AI generally and other robotics stuff too. I've got a pretty good sense of the landscape.
Hello.
Hello. I'm going to be at school for a while.
What's going on?
Patty?
Working on stuff. We have a mid.
Okay. What have you seen? What have educators mostly been using the robots for? What levels?
Well, so with Finch, it's all levels. Like it really does seem to be a kindergarten to high school thing. So we've seen APCS principals, but we've also seen a lot of like elementary school. I think the difference is at the high school level, you see more like, you know, a classroom like a CSAP classroom will have 10 or 15 robots in it for those students, and they'll use them frequently. Whereas at the, you know, kindergarten level, they might bring them out for an Hour of Code event once a year. And so they don't need as many robots because they can cycle them through a couple different classroom buildings or a couple different classrooms or that kind of thing. So more intense use in high school, but definitely using it in all grades. I mean, the kinds of things you can do are pretty standard. I mean, in addition to the AI stuff, you can make it dance, you can, you know, make it avoid obstacles, you can make it follow light, you can have it collect data, like hold it up, detect you know, use the accelerometer to detect motion, that kind of thing. So we've got in the Python and Java lessons, we have pretty much mapped out the whole APCSA conceptual curriculum and kind of said, here's Finch activities for each one of those. We've done kind of the same thing for Python. So you can go all the way up to, you know, arrays and lists and yeah, that kind of thing.
Nice. See Mike's question?
Yeah, so in Java, you connect to it over Bluetooth. So you need to install kind of a Bluetooth connector app that we provide for free. So it only works on Windows and Mac. And then the IDE can basically be anything. You use our Java library. You know, our instructions walk you through Eclipse and walk you through Greenfoot because Greenfoot's a little bit different. But you can do NetBeans, you could do IntelliJ, you could do command line, like they're all possible. We had somebody asking us a few weeks ago about, I think it was Dr. Java, which, and I think we tried to get it working, but it didn't work. I mean, it's been that program is quite ancient. The old Finch, the Finch one that came out in 2010, worked in Dr. Java, but this Finch, it turns out, doesn't easily work in Dr. Java. But any modern standard IDE, not a problem.
I have a quick question for you. I have one of your original Finches, and it worked beautifully back in the day when we integrated it with Eclipse. Will it still work? I mean, I know I hate to get rid of something that I have, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I did buy an upgraded one in 2019, so I've got two of them.
Yes.
But
it should still work. I mean, there's nothing in the world of Eclipse or in Java that should have caused the Finch one to stop working, except for like 32 versus 64-bit Java. But I think our library probably handled that. If not, you can email me. It would be an interesting problem anyway to try to solve.
And my other question is with the new integration with the new BirdBrain Bird blocks, can I still use that on the Finch one?
No, BirdBlocks doesn't work with Finch one. So Finch one, basically your options are Java, Python, and Snap.
Okay.
Those are the three that we committed to kind of continuing to support, you know, pretty much indefinitely.
Wonderful, because then I should be able to use any of those three platforms, say if I buy 10 new ones to try out, in an elementary school classroom, I should still be okay.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, if you buy the new ones, they'll work with, Snap, Bird blocks, Python, Java, a make code. But the old ones are a little more limited in terms of which programming languages. But they still have a block option and a text and two text options. The old one.
I still like the original one. It's still kind of cool. It's still cool. It still does work. I just have to have a huge long RJ45 jack cord on it.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, it's great to hear that. I mean, it's great to hear that something's still being used after that many years. I don't know when you got yours, but we started selling them in 2011, so
I got one of the first waves. I think I was at a Carnegie Mellon University workshop and they gave us all bots.
Oh, that probably was, one of the earliest ones. Yeah.
Thank you.
At least 12 or 13 years old.
Well, then again, my students got out my 1997 Wall Street MacBook and it still works and it still runs an old OS and they were quite enthralled by that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So I keep my technology well, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, if there are any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask, but I didn't see any more. Thank you so much, Tom.
Yeah. Thanks, John, for having me on. And yeah, good luck, everybody. And I'll hopefully see some of you at CSTA in next July. I'm looking forward to that. It's very convenient to have it in Cleveland. So,
yay.
All right. Bye.
Thank you so much. All right. Michael, please take it away if you're ready. We did not have the opportunity to get Micah from code.org today because they are sick, but yes, go ahead, Michael.
Of course. Forgive me, my internet has been immensely spotty as of late. So if I've come through a little tricky, just let me know and I'll turn my camera off and hopefully that should help. But hello, everybody. I'm the Director of Learning Partnerships with NextWaveSTEM. We're based in Chicago, but work with schools all across the country and as well as community-based organizations and school districts and liaisons to help support STEM learning and STEM accessibility, specifically through not necessarily just kits. Not to say that BirdBrain doesn't look fantastic and I can't wait to play with one, but we focus more on the turnkey lesson planning, making STEM more accessible since not everybody has the computer science background to deliver comprehensive programs that are both standards aligned and easy enough to implement while still maintaining engagement. So let me share, and I will give you a little bit of a background around some of the technology pathways that we focus on and why we chose to emphasize on the ones that we did. Let me know when you can see my screen. On screen. Let's try this one. Anyone can throw me a thumbs up if they could see my presentation. There we go. Everyone able to see? Okay, great. So we don't focus on necessarily just the kits. We're more focused on the curriculum and the lesson planning, very much around emerging technologies like hydroponics, artificial intelligence. We've recently added game design and hydroponics as our two newest pathways here in the last year and a half. All of our programming is broken down into age bands. So it's going to be, we've got K2 lesson plans and K3-5 lesson plans that are more focused on introductory learning experiences, discovering the broad feature sets of the equipment kits that they get to work with. Whereas the 6th to 8th grade programs are all focused on career pathing. Specifically, the 3D design program isn't a 3D printing program. It's very focused on the design aspect and the design engineering process, so that students walk away with a perspective of how that tinkering and how that skill is actually developing a career path, whether they are going to pursue that 4-year career or not. Specifically, We've seen a lot of success with Boys and Girls Clubs. They transition the middle school lessons into the high school programming because they go from essentially an introduction to Python and chatbots into more of the advanced machine learning component that they have at the high school level. We've also added a few new programs this fall. The 6 newest ones are going to be an agricultural sciences course at the high school level. Our new game design pathway, which is a 3-5 game design program in Scratch, and then a 6-8 coding arcade program where they actually can export the game into a device and walk around and play with their friends. So I've heard a lot of good feedback from the 6-8 lesson plan. But we've added 2 new courses for K2s. I don't know, you earlier, John, you were talking about how K3 often gets left out quite a bit in programming, and that's where we've spent a lot of our time focusing, both through our new K2 3D printing program where they use the Doodle to create 3D designs and architectures, learn about forces, whereas for the 3 through 8, they're going to use various other 3D design and slicing programs. I'd really love to. Oh yeah, the last course that was added was a complement to our high school coding with drones program, where they use the Tello drone. Now the drone certification test preparation course, essentially our driver's ed for drones, complements that with a larger emphasis on flying and preparing to take the FAA 107 certification test. I would really love to hear a little bit of feedback on which technologies have been explored most. I can kind of answer any questions you might have on any course in particular before showing you what our sample curriculum looks like, because we have sample lessons for each of these programs. The columns are the technology pathways, and then the rows are the age bands. Feel free to throw out whichever technology seemed the most interesting in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer questions or show you some of those sample lessons.
I've got a slightly different question. So if no one has any questions directed to you, I can wait.
Well, the early bird gets the worm. So
okay. So here's my question. I'm working in a district where my high school students, as part of our graduation sales, go out and teach elementary, preschool, and on up computer science kinds of topics that we would hope that we could work with the teachers to integrate into the curriculum. My question for you is with your sample lesson plans, do you have like demo sample lesson plans that we could run for a day if we take over an elementary school and look at CS? That way it would get the teachers.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a great, that's exactly what it's intended for. Specifically, the lessons that I would point you to are going to be our 3-5 Artificial Intelligence for Artists program about ethical use of generative AI, both in music and in art, using computer vision. And the 3-5 game design from scratch. Neither of those require any hardware. I mean, the 3D design program, or all of those are useful. I think they're like activity 6 and 11 are the ones that we use for the middle school and the high school levels. But each course, for every block, represents 15 hours of 1-hour programs with like the presentations and the teacher's guide. So especially if you've got, early college students and high schoolers trying to get experience in the classroom, this is a great way to have it kind of be scaffolded to teach to a standard. And that's something that I actually might have moved a little quickly on, so I will, let me get out of here, is we have made an emphasis on our standards alignment. Aside from NGSS, Common Core, ISTE, CSTA, which we're proud to say we've had added for quite a few years now, is 21st century programming. It's making it a lot more streamlined for Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, and after school clubs that are be pursuing that 21st century grant and federal funding to align and prove that they're teaching to the standard. Because a lot of times it's hard to kind of build strong engineering capacity to instruct in the after school space when you may have some teachers that have had friends that have worked in engineering, but a lot of times they're college students that may not have any experience doing that. So it makes this very easy for them. We've also made a big push on other state specific standards like Texas TEKS made it really difficult for 7th and 8th grade teachers to prove the design engineering process proficiency. And so this past summer, they were scrambling to put some programming in place, and we helped fill that gap for a lot of different school districts, both Austin USD, Dallas USD, and Houston ISD, who we've most recently had that used. But again, if there aren't any other questions, I am going to show you what that sample lesson looks like so you know how to use it.
So Crystal put in the chat that she's interested in doing drones and hydroponics.
Okay. Well, then those will be the ones that we look at. Let me just. Okay, great. So we use the Teachable portal to house the curriculum and the lesson plans. And the goal for it, especially in these last few years, as we've had more interest from community organizations trying to use this across seasons and across age bands and teams, is that having both all the PD resources, because every lesson plan pairs with a PD resource that's anywhere between like 1.5 hours to 2 hours. It just is like a primer to get you more edified on the technology if you don't already have that familiarity, because the lesson plans themselves kind of walk you through the technology and how they build both an understanding of it and a familiarity on how to use it. So you said hydroponics and drones, right? So we're going to look at the 6 to 8 drone course. That seems to be somewhere in the middle of the pack. You'll see that every program will come with a course overview, a teacher's guide, and a presentation that pairs with that. Some of the activities have worksheets, some of them do not. So this is one that represents one that does not. We also, like I mentioned earlier, added Spanish translations because we had it was pretty significant request and demand for dual language materials because of just an influx of Spanish for speakers and Spanish only speakers. So having presentation materials and some of the worksheets accessible to them will make it vastly more inclusive, which is very much a prerogative of ours. So like I said, every presentation will have an overview, or every lesson plan. Every course will come with an overview of one overview and 15 different teachers' guides. The overview will kind of give you a detail on what the lessons are titled, right? So with the UFO or UAV, drone blocks introductions, programming familiarity around loops and sequences, and then working your way up through climate control, some automation with the flight paths used in disaster management, as well as some other additional other lesson plans that we encourage you to incorporate with other resources you might have at your school or in your program. The teacher's guide, though, is where the real value is, in my opinion. That's where it details both an overview and the learning objectives, the materials required, and then it's scaffolded so that it's structured using the 5 E's method, which is engage, explain, explore, elaborate, and evaluate. So if you are on a time crunch, instead of putting in a support ticket, you can tune into one of our weekly office hours that are with one of our instructors, because in certain metros like Chicago and New York, we can staff instructors and STEM educators to be a part of your staff. And they do Q&A, whether it's technical requests or lesson plan requests. These are educators that have taught the programming that I'm showing you, so they can help answer a lot of those niche questions. You'll see here that, slide by slide, it instructs exactly how to have the students think critically. Eventually, they do put the drone in the air, but the first few lessons are focused around understanding lift and some of especially the 6-8 courses, the economics of what it means to have automation out of drones. But I'll take you over to hydroponics because I think that will serve well as an example. It was actually a request of Chicago Public Schools because in 2021 and 2022, we all know like the 3, 4s, and 5s and 5th graders were reporting poorly on using the scientific method as far as like creating a theory and testing a theory, as well as data collection and utilization. And so they were like, hey, Walmarts are closing down around town quite a bit, food desert. So having a plan that could be used in the after school space as well as during the school day to teach students about, urban farming, as well as other sustainable methods that they can construct internally. Because when you don't have a lot of backyard space, you really do have to make with what space you've got, right? Building vertically. So this is why we created the K-8 lesson plan. We just added the high school agribusiness that's more focused on solving sustainable development goals. That there is a worksheet involved and an answer key. Just not every lesson has one, so whatever lesson they picked isn't just one that came without. So I promise I'll leave this. I'll leave you with this, and share a few links to our website in the chat. I just want to make sure you have a chance to see the teacher's guide for a different lesson plan. And John, if you could, I would think I may be missing a few questions in the chat. My computer is loading. very slowly, as I'm sure you know.
I think you're all set. I just had posted the link to the teachable.com,
Great,
your
great.
teachable.com site.
Appreciate it. There are a few courses, none of them have prerequisites, but the few courses I have to point out that do have a bit of a learning curve to them if you aren't, proficient with Python, are going to be the high school AI program, which is very focused on machine learning and very, very advanced programming heavy. And then their high school drone course has a lot of math involved. So if your students struggle with that, there's a lot of telemetry data that's collected if you are going to plan the flight path. So it's just, they are, you don't need prerequisites, but they're definitely come with warnings. So as I mentioned, teaching to a standard, this course details different standards that are being touched on in each lesson, which is useful, especially if you are applying for grants and you want to try to, create a real use case that may be out of the box and unorthodox. You can use this to do so. But this one is, again, more focused on, for the K2 on plant life cycles, whereas 3.5, they actually introduce hydroponic systems and aquaponics. But yes, as John mentioned, the link to our sample lessons are in the chat. And I'll also put my email, which you're welcome to follow up with me at if you have any other questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael.
Of course. Sorry for the long wind, but just so much to talk about.
Yeah, there's a ton of content there. And so I think, going through, it would definitely be something that you'd have to take some time to do and explore. And that's definitely going in my toolbox. So I greatly appreciate it. And then, like I said, you're welcome to stay on at the end. But I am going to start on Ohio CS standards because that's the last piece that we're going to do today. And yes, we're talking Ohio's CS standards and not the CSTA standards. Not that they are all that different, right? The CSTA standards, of course, form the basis for Ohio standards that were adopted in 2022. A couple of people here were heavily involved in that entire process. And so what I want you to approach this session with, and I want you to interrupt at any time, I really do, is look for something that you are successful with in the standards. And the standards are linked. All these headers have a link to the standards, so you don't have to go search for it. Think about a success, a question that you have, a standard from your current class that you're wondering about, maybe an interpretation, some sort of struggle. What are you struggling with teaching? You're really focused on algorithms, but you're not sure about how to teach this particular aspect of algorithms, or maybe a surprise. I was certainly surprised when I was looking at the CS standards to see everything about quantum. Pretty heavy emphasis on that, and how do I make that work in my class, right? So let's just dive right in to the structure. In case you're unfamiliar with how the CS standards are structured, they are structured by strands, and there are these 6 major strands: computing systems, networks and the internet, data analysis, algorithmic thinking, AI, and impacts of computing. So you'll see those obviously come up again and again. Again, general structure, it goes from strand down to topic and then content statements. On the K8 level, it's pretty straightforward, where the third alphanumeric is going to be the grade level, and then the content statement. Whereas at the high school level, it's coded as 912, and then F for foundational and A for advanced. There is a huge push in these CS standards for equity, for making sure that computer science is available for all. And it's very explicitly defined what is meant by equity. It's not just about making sure that classes are available. It's how the classes are taught, how you recruit students into these classes, how the classroom culture supports everybody. students with disabilities, young learners, making sure that everyone has access to both computers and the internet, and making sure that females, non-gendered students, underrepresented minorities are all have access to computer science. And so this is something that's baked into these standards. It's not just this extra piece, because the impacts of computing strand addresses a lot of these equity issues. So what I did is I had Copilot help me out a bunch in order to give kind of a comparison of the general depth of knowledge that is being asked for at different levels in these different strands. You'll notice I don't talk about AI until the end, because AI is kind of a different beast as far as how we can think about AI at the different grade levels. So if you are fortunate enough to be in front of a kindergarten class teaching some CS, there's the expectation obviously is not for a huge amount of rigor. It's let's identify and label some things, right? And then at the 4th grade, I'll do K4 right now, and then 5 to 8 in just a minute. By the time you get to 4th grade, then it's looking at more of a detailed study. For networks and the internet, we're looking at basic concepts and then up to a detailed exploration of how devices actually connect to each other and then connect to the broader internet. But you notice that in 4th grade, start talking about cybersecurity, right? So it starts getting fairly complex fairly quickly at the elementary level. Data, and how do you do data analysis? Well, 4th grade, that's when we start to see some advanced data collection and how do we visualize, right? So again, it's a fairly even gradient, but the standards are fairly aggressive once they hit the 3.5 level. Algorithms and programming, we're talking about very simple sequences. The Finch robot, right, might be a perfect example. In NextWaveSTEM, I'm sure there's some great lessons that help those K3 learners just sequence things. We've all seen those physical computing devices where you have the robot and you put it on the tile, and then the direction, the arrow on the tile determines where the robot's going to move next. And that's the sort of techniques that we're looking at this K3 level. Up to 4th grade, and then we're actually the students are going to be constructing and understanding what an algorithm is, right, and variables. For the impacts of computing, and again, this is where equity gets folded into this, and ethics. We're talking about what role does technology play up to the ethical implications and environmental impacts of technology at a 4th grade level. 5 to 8, the 8th grade standards, for my money, the 8th grade standards make an introductory course, high school course. I would feel comfortable teaching an introductory course with those 8th grade standards. And even maybe down to 7th grade standards. The 7th and 8th grade standards are rigorous. There is not a huge jump from that to the foundational high school standards. And so we see in computing systems, students start to evaluate devices. In networks and the internet, we're talking about network security and debates about ethical implications of how to actually use the internet, right? Advanced data analysis techniques, data visualization, interpretation at that 8th grade level. How do we create modular programs with functions and advanced control structures? So you can see when you look at everything vertically, you can see this progression. And especially if you touch on different grade levels, if you are in that position where you get to maybe even move between different buildings, you can see how to make that progression over time. So I think a lot of us don't have take the opportunity to look at those grade levels that we are not actively in front of. But then you can see how that progression works. And sometimes that can help you structure a lesson so that If you're not sure where to start because your kids just have your ninth grade students have no background in algorithms and no background in coding. Well, starting with these lower standards might help you structure that lesson better. And again, all the details are in the standards on the links. But I think that is one approach that can be really helpful, because often we struggle with, I've got this, like, maybe this mid-range AP-CSP class, but I've got students who've never coded before. How do I bridge that gap? And the standards can really help in how to do that. Impacts of computing, it's a global view, right? Analyzing the global impacts. We're trying to understand this role of technology in more than just our society once you get to that 8th grade level. All right, so quickly, high school. So there's this difference between the foundational and advanced. Foundational would be an intro to computer science class, or a lot of other different classes fit under that umbrella. But it would be essentially the first computer science class a student would take. Advanced would be anything past that. Now, to reemphasize, these standards are not meant to say, if you teach foundational computer science, you have to teach all of these standards. Like, your course must address everything. That's impossible. There's no course that's going to be able to address every single thing that you see in either the foundational or advanced. But it really does help you figure out, all right, this is an algorithms class. What are the major what are the standards? What do I need to make sure I'm covering in order to give students a well-rounded algorithms or app design or game design experience? So with computing systems, it goes from identify and describe to analyze and compare, right? With networks and the internet, it goes from what is the internet to let's figure out, like, how you actually design a network. Data analysis goes from collect, analyze, and interpret to let's create an app, or let's apply data analysis techniques. Let's figure out how we can actually create something novel. Algorithms and programming is developing and understanding to creating. That's that dividing line. Foundational, maybe students are making, something really simple, an exercise. Maybe they're making some sort of the beginnings of an app. But those advanced courses, that's where we're expecting students to make the whole thing. And impacts of computing, we've got exploring and then evaluating. So here's the overview for AI, just so that you can see it all at once. Yes, there are standards, kindergarten standards for AI, right? Our kindergartners experience AI probably more than we do. And so they are not only experiencing it, but they are it is becoming part of their daily lives. So you see that when you work up through the grades, not only are we looking at different algorithms, different applications, but then on the advanced level, we're looking at teaching neural networks, deep learning. What does the future look like? Machine learning appears again and again and again. Like I said, quantum computing appears again and again and again throughout the standards. And so all of these have opportunities, and they might even give you ideas for designing your next course, because why not have an AI course for at least a semester based on these pretty comprehensive AI standards. I see some stuff in the chat, and yes, progressions are in the model curriculum. Thank you so much, Janelle. And so I wanted to circle back to this as we have a couple minutes left, and now ask you what I asked you before, and what you think about what is some success that you have had. What do these standards remind you about some success, a question, a struggle, or a surprise? And please don't be shy. If anyone is currently looking through the standards, what is something that is particularly surprising? Or if you clicked on Janelle's link and you're looking through the model curricula, Anne says that they've used, she's used B-bots and blue bots in pre-K to 2. Anyone else experience with B-bots? I hear about those a lot.
I actually like the blue bots better because you can easily go from push button and then escalate it to color coded blockly, which is kind of nice. I guess what I was surprised about how much AI you would get in a pre-K classroom. So that's something we need to maybe add into our repertoire when we start talking about like loops and if else's and things like that. When we go ahead and start reading how to build a sandcastle and if you give a mouse a cookie kind of thing.
Excellent. Michael said that at NextWaveSTEM, they use MBOTs.
It's the MBOT S.
Oh, it's specifically MBOT S. Okay. I am unfamiliar.
I cannot get my MBOT to work. So somehow someone tell me if there's a trick, please let me know. I have one. It's become a great paperweight. I would love to know how to use it better.
Oh, of course. Is your driver updated?
I had it paired with a Kindle Fire and it was updated. Everything was updated, but we could not get it to, somehow we were missing a step and we just couldn't get it together. I was working with a bunch of 6th grade girls and they got frustrated. So I had to take it into a different direction.
Let me, well, Anne's phone, let me ask our support team and I will let you know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But this was probably like somewhere in the late teens, 2018, probably 2017, somewhere around there. So it probably is a different, I have an older one.
It could be tougher.
Yeah.
And obsolescence. What a pain.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, but I tend to like to hold on to my tech, so I'm just kind of stuck.
Feel that.
Crystal says that they did B-bots, a mouse, and the Sphero cars. The range very successful. And it was very successful to connect with navigating the school, home, and around town science. Great. So I hope this was helpful to take a really I don't know if there's a 30,000 foot view, but it's maybe not that high. Look at the standards and to get this idea of how the lower grades and the higher grades work together. And maybe you took a look at that model curriculum. And thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. The next meetup is in November. And that is the prep for CS Ed Week. So CS Ed Week is basically the second week of December, kind of the second week of December. And that is an exciting week to really bring to students and to get out of your bubble a little bit and move around to maybe different classes or different grade levels. So we hope that you join us in November. We hope that you submit a session to CSTA Cleveland by October 27th. And generally, we hope to see you around, and we hope that everyone who is feeling under the weather feels better soon. Please feel free to stick around if you have any questions or you wanted to chat with Michael or anyone else. And thanks again for being here.
John, I might
Hi,
have
Janelle.
to your summary. I might have to steal your summary slides.
You can credit Copilot for a significant amount of it.
I like the way that it came up with like that way to view the standards like that. I mean, because they can be overwhelming sometimes to teachers, and that's a good way to just kind of look at it overall.
Yeah. I definitely had to coax it.